All right, we're doing it right now, Coach. So I'll bring you in. Preparing to go live, coaches. I appreciate y'all staying with us and everything. All right. Let me mute this. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and coach and tweet out. And we are live right now. Have you ever done one of these before?
I've not done one live. That's what I'm sitting here thinking is like, why didn't I tweet this out this morning that, we were going to go live and stuff. So this is just so new for me. Yeah, it's neat. I think I'm doing one tomorrow, honestly, with the 92 Mesh Group or whatever. And I think he said it'd be live on YouTube. So I guess it's the new thing now.
It is. It is. All right. I tweeted it out. I'm going to go ahead and email. There we go. Coaches, if you're just coming in, welcome. Now, Coach, are y'all off today?
We are.
Okay. So are we. It's the only way I can do this at 3:00. Let's see. All right. We got some coaches already in here. Coach Todd, what's going up? Harley, hello. Two of our favorites. You stop it. You're embarrassing us. We're going to let them come in, Coach, while we do this. Hey, coaches that are there, if you could just go ahead, give us a thumbs up and go ahead, say something in the chat. Let us know you're there. Don't be bashful now, because throughout this whole thing, you will be able to ask some questions. Okay. So everything's looking good so far. Sounds good. First time turning in live. I'm glad you can come. All right. Coach Anderson, welcome. Good afternoon to you too. Coach Rod, hello. They're all here to see you, Coach. From the culture master himself. All right, hey, before we start, let me go ahead. Coach just came out with is the new book out now, or are you still taking pre-orders?
No, it's out. Yeah, I've been mailing for a couple of weeks.
Awesome. I am going to drop all of his stuff into chat, his Twitter account, his 2 books, which are unbelievable. I've got your second one already. It's in my shopping cart. Now that I know it's live, it's going there right now. I'm going to read that next week. The first one is unbelievable. If you're in football, you need to read it. And then your website. So if you want to, that's how you can connect. It is in the chat. All right. Let me just make sure that everything is rocking and rolling, Coach. While we do that, while I get all this administrative stuff done, go ahead. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, even if the people that don't know you are living under a rock?
Yeah, I'm Randy Jackson, and I'm honored to be here. First of all, I'm the head football coach at North Forney High School in Forney, Texas. So we have about 1,900 students. We were 7-3 this year. Authored Culture Defeat Strategy in 2016. Culture Defeat Strategy 2. I just released it a few weeks ago, I guess, and then I started selling resources on my website, coachrandyjackson.com. I've got a free online course that I'm putting out Friday with like 3 5-minute videos about culture. And so I'm just kind of getting going. In 2016, one of my personal coach told me to write a book, and really didn't know if I should or not. But it's been so much fun feeling like I'm contributing with the internet. Coaches are just so gracious to each other. Coaches will retweet it and all. You just feel like, man, I'm making a little bit of a difference. And
you most definitely are.
I didn't know what core values were until I hired the guy's name is Brian Kane, and I was paying him $500 an hour. Or really, my booster club was, and so I just thought, man, I can share some of this stuff that I learned, and it's been a lot of fun. And then in 2017, I came to North Forney, and they had really had no identity. It really hadn't been real good, and we went 10-3 that year, averaged 53 points a game, and really it was a really hard culture change. They were pretty selfish and lazy and things like that. And I thought, man, there's another book in here. And so I'm excited to get it released, and kind of starting to get to do it. Once you release a book, you get asked to be on podcast and all. And so Ron, just wants you to know I'm honored to be here, brother.
Well, thank you. And coaches, if you haven't already, here it is right here. The first one. So like I said, the second one is on its way. It is amazing. And that's a perfect segue. How you said it was hard to do culture at your new school. So I was wondering, what made you decide when you first got into culture, go, okay, this is the way. I need to do this because this is going to help me.
I think that, okay, I'll just give you but in 2010, I took a job at a Mesquite Poteet, a school of about 1,800. I've been at small schools, and I was just ready to take that leap to the next one and honestly get a pay raise, tired of mowing the field and all that. And so they'd been 1-19 the 2 years before I got there. And their JV had like 18 kids on it. I mean, it was bad. And we got put in a 9-team district. We were picked 9th out of 9. And so I just thought, okay, I'm really gonna pour into these kids. And if nothing else, if we don't win many games, I'm gonna help raise them. And we can stand each other. Maybe I won't, Scouts honor, maybe I won't have as many discipline problems. I just felt like it was going to be the thing to do, and I was going to get through this first year, and then we build it. And I think it takes about 2 off seasons for it to really be yours. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to kind of get, well, anyway. So we really intentionally started having team meetings with kids. I got in Texas, it's getting more and more rare, but when I got to Poteet, it was in March, and I almost fired every coach there on the staff. And so it was me and 3 guys doing off season. And after workout, I would meet with next year's seniors, and there's only 20 of them. And for a school that size, wasn't very many. And I would meet with them. We'd talk about the day we just had, what we were going to do tomorrow. And so I really got into talking to guys and talking to kids one-on-one. And then we have a leadership lesson the next day with the whole team. And then anyway, the next fall we went 12-3, and we went to state semifinals. I was coach of the year in Texas, and I mean, it was like angels in the outfield kind of thing or something. And so I know that, I mean, we had a quarterback who wasn't playing, who came out. I mean, there were some other things, right? But I know that was the first time I'd ever done culture intentionally. And it was at least 5% of the recipe, you know, that big, huge turnaround and all. If you can't do it in your mind, you sure can't do it out on the field. And so just to get guys to think alike, speak alike, and act alike, which is my definition of culture. If you don't, nothing happens if you just hope for the best. So that was my first time to intentionally do it. I've kept doing it, and I think it's just been. I think it's really. I don't think it cures everything, but I think when something happens, it helps you deal with it much better.
Okay. Now, when you first sat down with those kids and you were asking them questions like one-on-one, did they think like, is this dude serious? Did they think it was like a game, or will they get in trouble, or did they just take to it immediately? Like, hey, I've got an adult that actually cares. I like this.
Oh, they took to it. So at that time we had last period athletics. And so school would end, and workout those guys would still be in their workout clothes, and I'd have all 20 seniors in the locker room. And I would talk to them like, now guys, you know, it's just me and 3 other guys. So basically y'all all have to be coaches. Here's what I think was good about today. What do y'all think? And man, they had never been asked those questions before. They ate it up. And
I bet.
Hey, who do you think is in the wheelbarrow? Or really, it wasn't like it really wasn't quite like that, but it wasn't a positive, negative thing. You know, I wasn't asking about kids or anything, but it was more like, what can we do tomorrow? And here's my plan. Okay, I need y'all to do this. I need you to, hey, so-and-so hadn't been here. I need you to help get him here. And hey, do y'all, because what happens when you come in somewhere new, you want to win them over, but you also have to cut a few guys loose. You know, there's just going to be some guys. I mean, we had a legit 4-4 kid who just would not come to practice, and you have to eventually cut those guys loose, or you're going to be a fraud. And so for me, I'm talking to those seniors, to be seniors every day, and talking about, hey, we got to do this. Here's what's happening. I mean, so they understood what was in my mind. They didn't just see me as a guy who was in a hurry. I'm always in a hurry during athletics, so I could slow down and talk to them. And so I still, to this day, you know, now, you know, through leadership councils and things like that, I try to talk to kids more one-on-one and all that. But I think one of the magic things you can do with a team is to get small groups and talk to them and let them know what's on your mind, and give them feedback. And so this is a big deal to me. So kids today all give their opinion, right? And
Yes,
so
they do.
I'm kind of veering off here, Ron, but
No, that's fine.
because of social media, kids like things, they retweet things, they follow people, their voice is heard. And so if you think you can coach a team now, and not let your players have their voice heard, I think you're missing the boat. So I'm 52 years old. This is year 30 for me, and I got to stay up with the times. And so I can't just go to my team and go, here's our core values. I mean, they have to, you're in on what you're in with. So you got to let kids be in on things. So from 2010, I let them be in on things with daily team meetings after workout. But even in 2010, from these last 10 years have been monumental. So now in 2010, social media wasn't near what it is now. So I think with as much as our players are on social media and their voice is heard, their voice needs to be heard in your program too if you're going to have a great culture.
Yeah, and I love, first off, that I didn't know you've been doing this for a decade now. That is unbelievable. So high fives to you. But also, you're creating buy-in with your players because now they're like, oh, I've got a say in this program,
100%.
and now I'm just looking at it on the flip side. They really can't badmouth a program if they're the ones that are, helping build the program. Does that make sense?
Total sense. And so when we go out there the next day and run 3, I don't know, we get on the track and we're really, really grinding their corn, as I say. When you talk to them about it the day before and go, all right, guys, here's what we need to do. Are y'all in with it? Then again, it was a big deal. And so now as you grow and so I bought this deal called Habitudes, which I think is great stuff. Now I make my own lessons. And so what we do now is we'll work out. We bring our guys in pretty early. We're first period. So tomorrow we'll bring our guys in at 7:15 a.m. We'll do a track workout for 45 minutes. We'll have a 20-minute halftime and we'll do a leadership lesson. And then we'll go another 45 minutes in the weight room. So it's a great way for our guys to get a rest, but it's intentional. Like last week, my lesson was on meritocracy, which is you get what you earn. We've got video clips in there. And I mean, it's really good. We pause it, we talk about it, they get in small groups. And so when you're talking about you get what you earn and we really celebrate what we do, hey, we go on the track, then it's hard for them to be on the track complaining about it because we've already talked about it and they agree with me. Yeah, in the leadership lessons, they're all shaking their heads of, yes, coach, this is what we need. And then we go out and do it.
That is so smart. And now they don't, because I know some kids, or I've been around some programs where it's just, they just grind, like what'd you say, grind their corn?
Yes, sir.
I love that. And the kids don't understand why. But now you're explaining the why. And I have really found that when you can tell kids the why behind what you're doing it, they buy in almost automatically because they understand what you're doing. So kudos to you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a good deal. And again, like you say, they feel a part of the program. And we're not just telling them, here's what we're doing. And so the more that they buy in, the more that you let them be a part of the program. And again, our core values are eerily similar to what they were at Grapevine, but our players at North Forney, they think they came up with them. And so you can steer them how you want it to be, but they still have to be a part of it.
Okay. And coaches, if you're just joining us, my name is Coach Ron McKie. If you haven't been here before, I am interviewing the great Coach Randy Jackson. We're talking about culture. If you like these kind of things, hit that subscribe button right down below and then hit that bell notification when I go live with amazing coaches like this. If you have any questions, go ahead, put them in the chat. We have a Q&A. Coach has graced us with his time. Let's take advantage of this because he is the man. All right. So my next question is, when you're going to, so you said you're going to have to cut some players loose sometimes when you come into a new school. Is that because they're resistant to culture or they're just resistant to you as like a coach, or what's the reasoning behind that?
Well, I think every place you go into is different. So I feel like I've turned around, or hell, I've been a part of 3 pretty good turnarounds. And so when I got to Poteet in 2010, the assistant coach told me that the band made fun of the football team. And so I knew then I had to be a cheerleader. So every day I was going to lift them up and I was going to speak greatness into them. But you still have to do the work. And so you can't talk about how it's going to be and let someone just never show up. I mean, I would think everybody listening to this is going to have a guy who's just going to test them.
Yeah.
And I think when you're new, everybody's watching you, and what are you gonna do with a really good player? And so my dad, he was a coach for 41 years, and here's one. I don't remember a whole lot of things, but he said, whenever you look the other way and let the really good player get away with stuff, you're killing your culture. And he might tear his ACL the first day of practice anyway. So don't ruin your credibility. I think my biggest fear in life is being a fraud. So I'm gonna stand up in front of my team, and we have systems in place. If you're late, this happens, and we're gonna do it every day. And so at Poteet, I was there 3 years. I left there. I went to Grapevine, and Grapevine's around the DFW airport, totally different clientele, a little more higher affluent. And they were soft, and so we had to get those guys tough. And so it was probably a little less cheerleader and more
Okay.
drill sergeant, and you're going to have some resistance on that. And then when I came to North Forney in 2017, way more talent, but selfish. And so I had to attack each one of them different. But you still have to have a somewhat strong hand of, hey, here's how we're going to do things. I'm going to let you be a part of what I can let you be a part of, but we have to have a standard. And so, like when I got to North Forney, we were going to have 7 a.m. track practice, and we had guys who just had a hard time getting there. Well, eventually, you got to make a decision. Or have you ever heard the broken windows analogy of New York City, of the crime and all that? Well,
yep.
I love that, right? And so I think everything is a broken window. So whatever you decide, wherever you go, and you do. So for guys who are turning around a program, which I think is an art, right? I think it's, you got to go in, you got to get a lay of the land, and you got to say, okay, this is what this group needs. And you got to figure out what are the broken windows, and whatever you decide those broken windows are, you can't, you really just can't negotiate too much, or they're going to think they can negotiate with everything.
Yeah. And coaches, what he means by the broken windows, I want to say it was Rudy Giuliani when he was the lead prosecutor in New York City. And they had such bad crime that they decided they couldn't really tackle that big crime because it just took too much resources so what they did was crack down on things like vandalism and little things. And that had a trickle on effect, like, oh crap, they're really hammering us on throwing rocks or sticking gum somewhere where it shouldn't be. If we do, can you imagine what will happen if we break a major law? And I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I got to speak to the teachers in August, and I talked to them about broken windows. And I said, if you really want to have a great culture in your school, you can't let kids be tardy, or you can't, if you hear cursing in the hallways, you can't not hear it. And so I think little things add up. And so, yeah, I think the stories in like 1992, they had some neighborhoods, and they replaced all the windows in these warehouses and things. And the crime went down just because the place looked better, and it just seemed like it was, that they were just attacking the little things.
Yep. And Coach, that's a great thing, because we had a couple of questions. Coach Lopez says, what happens to guys that don't show up for track workout? So could you talk a little bit about, like, I know you said the systems that you have in place. Like, what's a little system you have in case someone's just not following through?
Okay, so we're going to work with them as much as we can. We have and I wish I had a picture of it, but some of you guys might enjoy this. But of course, I stole this, right? I went and did a seminar in Houston this summer, and they were telling about a discipline wheel they have, kind of like a Wheel of Fortune wheel. So we have a wheel, and we have all these punishments on it.
Uh-huh.
So if a kid's late, he has to spin the wheel. And so in fact, I took this wheel when I spoke to the teachers in August, and I showed them. I said, so if you need help with a kid because he's not, just email me and he'll spin the wheel. And so we have a wheel that will spin. We have another deal called hard yards, which is 100 yards of bear crawl, 100 yards of log roll, 100 yards of forward roll, 100 yards of back pedal, and they have to do it within 5 minutes, I think, or something like that. So it's timed. And so we call it the daily fist fight. And in off season, we have a deal where if kids didn't give us great effort or something, we have a coach who we call it the pit of misery. And so they go to the pit of misery, but so nothing has ever looked the other way. We're going to tackle it all the time. But when you come in new, I think you call a parent, you make sure. And I had, like I said, when I got here in 2017, I was driving an hour from Grapevine. It was a one-way commute. It was an hour. And I had 2 twins who lived like they were split custody, and some days they were 30 minutes away. And I can remember the kid, I think twice telling me, Coach, I'm 30 minutes away. And I'm like, hey, your excuse is invalid. You know, I mean, I could sleep another 30 minutes if I lived where you are. So, you know, I just think, but they were used to getting away with it.
Yeah.
And I think what you do is you have a standard and you hold the standard and you just keep holding them to the standard. And you don't really throw kids off the team. They'll just kind of cut themselves loose if you keep making them hit the standard. But again, you have to have a little help, and you have to have a bunch of guys. Every assistant coach, every coach they go to, they need to get the same answer. This is the standard. And that's when you have gold, you know, when everybody maintains the same standards. Awesome.
Okay. And I have a couple of questions about the morning workouts, and I'm just going to summarize
Okay.
why morning workouts and not afternoon workouts.
Well, it's hot here. I know it's hot
That's
in
true.
South Carolina, right? And so I started doing that about 5 years ago. And so what we have in Texas is an athletic period. So from 8:35 to 9:25 is football,
Okay.
basically. And so even during football season, we'll practice from 6:45 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. And so our hay is in the barn. We don't have those heat issues. I like kids getting up out of, you know, they're going to second period and they're awake. They've already, you know, and then after school, we'll bring them back on Monday and Tuesday. We'll lift weights with them, and then we'll watch practice of that morning. So it's kind of a college-like model, I think. On Wednesdays, we'll bring them back just to watch practice. So it's kind of a 2-a-day mentally, I guess. But
Okay.
and again, I know you can relate, but on Monday when it's 100 degrees, it's hard to have a good practice.
Yeah.
Our guys are here early, but at least it's cool. We get them going. And then for us coaches, the rest of the day, we grade film every day. I've got so many cool things that I know we don't have time, but we grade practice, and we have what we call dogs of the day, which is a daily award winning goon. And so we have different criteria for every position. And I think it'd be a little harder if you did it at, you know, your coaches will be up there late at night doing that. So, but mornings for us has been a good deal. Just, it's a lot safer too, really, honestly, in general.
I know a lot of the successful programs in South Carolina, they have something similar to what you have. They bring them in the morning, they practice, and then they do watch film like y'all. And what I've talked to the coaches, they like that is they know who's missing or not. Because at the end of the day, you know, you may see a kid come in, but then in the afternoon, all of a sudden, oh, I got an appointment, or I got sick, or they come with excuses and they leave. And now at practice, you're like, hey, where's my starting wide receiver, or where's my running back? Now you know. So I love that part about morning workouts.
Yeah, I just thinking, you know, I mean, kids need to get up out of bed. I mean, I know there's sleep studies and all this, but when you look at one of my favorite deals is Success Leaves Clues.
Yeah.
All your great CEOs and all that, they get up early and they work out, and they, you know, so we're training our kids that successful people get up early, they get out of bed and they go to work.
Yep.
So it's I think it kills a lot of birds with that one stone.
All right. I have another question, Coach Rod. He wants to know, do you create the core values, or do you let your players do them? I know you touched on that a little bit.
Players have to be in on it.
Okay.
So here it is in a nutshell is, if I was leaving Norfolk, if I started at a new school tomorrow, then we would have daily team meetings for about a month. And I would talk to them about what's important to me. I would talk to them about the All Blacks rugby team, how they sweep the sheds. And I would talk about Kobe Bryant's insane work ethic. And so I would just talk to them about just stories of warriors and things. And then after about a month, we would start making our core values, but I've already kind of brainwashed them for a month. I mean, so I've already got them thinking the way I want them to think. And then, so here's how we would do it. So for us, we have 5 core values, one for each day of the week.
Okay.
Some people do it like an acronym, like, you know, like you could take Tigers and TB tough, right? And so but we do a day of the week. And so for us, Monday is juice, Tuesday is competition, and Wednesday's blue collar tough, Thursday's family, and Friday is discipline. So that's how we do ours. And so after about a month, I'm gonna say, all right, guys, we need a Monday core value. What do y'all, you know? So I'll send them like a Google Doc or Google form,
Okay.
and I'll say, what's one word that y'all want our program to be known for? And I'll take all these words and we'll break them up into 5 groups, and brotherhood, there's family, there's, a lot of different words, and you'll just kind of break them up, and we just kind of go from there, and we'll go over it with them, as a team, and let them look at it and go, okay, y'all, here's the big 5 words y'all came up with. Now let's assign them a day of the week. So that'll take a little while. And then as we get into that, now we've got to define each one. So for us, like juice, on Monday morning at 6:45, it's easy to go out there and not have a whole lot of enthusiasm. So juice was our Monday core value. So now we need to define it. And so we do it a lot through Google Forms. WhatsApp is our deal. And so I'll ask them, hey guys, give me some words how y'all want to define juice. And then, well, I've used this phrase, if you're juiceful, you're useful. And so I got some of those. And so, hey, relentless effort and all that kind of stuff. So we end up, so they help us define them. And so that's probably about an 8-week process, really, by the time you brainwash them 4 weeks, and you take about 4 weeks to come up with your core values and define them. And because you really hammer it pretty good, but then they have them. They feel like they're part of it.
Do those core values change season to season, or once you come in and you create those core values, that's it, and we keep them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had that question asked me a lot of times. This will be my 4th season at North. So I was at Grapevine 3 seasons. Now I've been at North Forney 3 seasons. And so that's the longest I've been since I've been doing core values. So here's what I think. After about 3 years, I'm getting to where those kids had zero input on these core values. They weren't, I'm graduating those guys out. So now I think what you do is you meet with your leaders, or maybe your whole team, however you want to do it. But you say, okay, guys, let's reevaluate our core values. Is there anything y'all want to change? Things like that. I think you have to let them, maybe every 3 years say, are y'all good with this? Is there anything you want to change? It costs you, I spend a lot of money on branding and all that, but again, I don't know how Disney and Chick-fil-A, those people with great core value, you can feel their culture. I don't know how they do it, because most of their employees weren't a part of it. Yeah. So in football, our guys are going to feel a part of it. And I think about every 3 years, you need to re-up and make sure they feel. I haven't done it yet with my guys, so it's really great for y'all to be talking. Like, I probably need to do it soon, but I would almost be 100% be willing to bet they wouldn't want to change any of them, because we just hammer it so much. And I think they feel like, I think they feel good about them, and it's in their fabric also.
Yeah, it's y'all's identity now.
Yes.
You don't want to change your identity all the time.
So, I went to a PJ Fleck team meeting. It's chapter 3 of my new book, and it was unbelievable. And so we were waiting on him to come in, and the assistant coach said, hey, coach, every song here that we play is intentional. And it was a Bruno Mars 24 karat. It was Saturday morning, spring ball, and it was juiceful, right? And so, I can steal a lot of things. So like for us, Wednesdays is blue collar tough. So when our kids walk into our field house, they're going to hear tough enough. It's just going to loop over and over again. And so, Thursdays, We Are Family by Sister Sledge. And so Monday's juice, I use that same Bruno Mars song. So if you really hammer it, they love it, right? So I don't think they'd want to change it, because they feel like it's theirs too.
Yeah, and it's I know that I'm using the word, it's a culture, it's like a family aspect. They buy in and they love it. I like that. All right, so getting to culture, I've always wondered, sorry if I'm yelling at the mic, what is, in your opinion, the best thing about culture, and then what's the most frustrating thing? Because when we do stuff, there's a good thing and a bad thing. And I'm not saying it's bad to put it, but I know there's some things that you're just frustrated by, because if the kids just got it, it would be so much better for them. So
I think, gosh, here's where we are in our society. So I got to tour BSN about 2 years ago, and they have a big place in Dallas. And they told me one of the big one of the big shoe companies, not Nike, but one like Nike, they wanted to do an advertising campaign that was a look at me campaign. It was a kid making a play and doing this, right? And whole, it was basically a real anti-team, but it's where we are, and maybe a kid making a tackle and looking up, looking down it, and BSN said we don't want any part of that. It's just not our core value. It's not what we stand for. And the only reason I tell that story is 10, 15, 20 years ago, no one would want a marketing campaign that was based on look at me selfishness. So our society has went so much into personal trainers, into, it is, I mean, you can talk to college coaches. So, we deal with the handlers at the high school level in Dallas. It's a big deal. Well, Sonny Dykes at SMU tells me he has the same issue with the agents or whatever. It's just so, so guys are all about, you must talk to your team about scholarships and all that. But if that's all you talk about now, you don't hammer the team stuff and here's what we're about, then I think you're in a lot of trouble, because they're going to get the other stuff all,
everywhere else.
Everywhere else. That's right. And so everything is selfish. It's me. And heck, if I tweet out something about Matt Rule on the night that Baylor plays, and I'm just going to tell you, it's embarrassing that I know this, but I got like 1,200 likes. And I remember going, man, that's pretty cool, right? That's just, I think, how we're wired.
Yeah.
So we better wire them to be about team. And so that's where I think culture is. And this is something I'm going to talk about in my free online course. But when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl a few years ago, a reporter went out there and she interviewed everybody she could, custodians, secretaries, and all. She goes, here's the secret to why the Seahawks are successful is they all speak fluent Carroll. Everybody I talked to said the same. It's all Pete, everything that Pete Carroll believes, everybody in the facility said the same thing. I think that's a culture. And I think that if you're not intentional about that, then you're going to have, let's say 40 guys on your varsity, well, 22 starters, you're going to have 22 starters and maybe they're all saying something different. They're all believing something different. It's all about them. And so the most frustrating part about that can be is maybe you don't win them all over. Now, all our guys, here's what I believe about culture is if I came to your school and I said, and all your players hit a knee and I said, hey, what is your football program about? If I got a bunch of different answers, then I don't think y'all really have a culture. So if you came to North Forney and I said, guys, this is Coach McKie. He's got one question. And if he said, what are y'all all about? Our guys they're going to say it. They don't get their helmet decals if they can't do our creed. In spring ball, they're not getting their equipment if they can't do our core values and our creed. And so our guys, you're going to hear it over and over, like juice, competition, blue collar tough, family, and discipline. So I know you'd hear it, but the most frustrating part about it is there's 2 or 3 guys who probably don't really believe it. You know what I mean? Well, I think they do, like they can say it, but we all know that when they go home, they're hearing other things, so I love about cultures. We all want to speak fluent Carroll. The most frustrating part about it is you might always have 1 or 2 guys who are good players, who you're not one, you're just not sure around the dinner table if they're not hearing something different. And so they say what you want to hear, but you're not always exactly sure that's what they're really thinking.
Yeah. And I like that, how you use that shoe thing. It's all about me or whatever, because if you don't build culture or talk about the team aspect, where are they going to get it at? They're not getting it anywhere else. So you have to actually go like 2 or 3 times over on just the team aspect to counterbalance the all about me stuff. And I know that's what you do. I love it.
It's got to be every day.
Yeah.
And I catch myself talking about, hey, college coaches here, scholarships here, whatever. And then I'll catch myself and I go, man, I got to talk about North Forney more. And, we're in January and we're in that point or whatever. But Ron, I don't know if this is a big deal in South Carolina or not, or any of these guys listening, but in the Dallas area, select 7-on-7 teams are a big deal.
Not here, but I do know it's starting to. So we haven't been infected yet.
We're infected here, and so you can preach team. So you have all these all-star teams, and kids are looking at. I don't go to the tournaments or anything, right? They're not school tournaments.
Yeah.
But they're certainly not team aspect things. And so what we've done is we're the only high school that I know doing this, but we get in these tournaments with the select teams. And so instead of our kids going and playing with these all-star teams, they're playing with us. And so
Smart.
the other day, like we went and played, and the starting quarterback was from Houston, starting receiver was from South Dallas. I mean, there's a bunch of 3 and 4-star guys on this team, and they beat us, but we're together and we're preaching how much we got better as a team. Our guys are still getting what they want. They're still getting looks by college coaches. They're still getting, those recruiting experts are still tweeting them out and all that. But so I think as much as you can do those kind of things, keep your guys together as a team, then you're way better off.
All right, that's great. And again, coaches, if you're just joining, I am speaking with Coach Randy Jackson about culture. He has a new book that is out. He has a website, a Twitter. If you want to reach out to him and talk more about it, it's in the chat. Now we have a couple questions, if you don't mind. Where I saw a great one. How do you guys deal with kids that feel entitled for playing time?
I think you talk about everything. So that is a great question. So again, we're going to do a leadership lesson every week. And so here's what I started doing. I told you that before we came on air, I told you about this, but I've been making these PowerPoints for years. And then 2 years ago, or in the spring, 2 years ago, I go to Minnesota, and I Coach Fleck talks about, if here's what you got to do to have a great culture. And I have a blog about this on my website, but you must have a daily team meeting, and it can be 5 minutes, right? But you have to have a daily team meeting. And if you want to Pete Carroll talks about, you got to fascinate them. And today, if you're going to fascinate a player, you got to have a video clip. So he shows a video clip of the Kingsmen, and these people are jumping out of an airplane. There's 6 people jumping out of an airplane. Only 5 of them have a working parachute. And so it's high adrenaline. I mean, I'm sitting there, it's Friday night, we're in Minneapolis, and there's coaches in the room, and you could hear a pin drop, and he'd pause it every now and then. And so I'm sorry, I'm kind of circling back.
No, that's fine.
So, eventually there's 2 guys, there's 2 people left. One's parachute works, one doesn't. They hang on to each other and they get down. And he said, so in Minnesota, like our deal this spring was, who's packing your parachute? And they have a little parachute on their shirt and all. But so if he just talked about that parachute but didn't use that video clip, it wouldn't be near as good.
Right. So
I started putting video clips in my PowerPoints. And I mean, I've got Achilles where Brad Pitt is like, the king is saying, I'll remember your name. And I mean, it just resonates with kids. So last week, so with my website, I sell these PowerPoints. And so now I've started making some more. And so I made one on meritocracy. And meritocracy, the first person I ever heard use that was Jim Harbaugh there at Michigan. And it talks about basically, you're not going to play if you don't earn it. And even if we offer you a scholarship and your grades go bad, you get arrested, or we're going to pull yours. But life is a meritocracy. And I've got a video clip there of Tony Romo giving the keys basically over to Dak Prescott and talking about it's a meritocracy. And I got some Nick Saban video in there. So, but here's the deal, to make this answer the longest answer ever, I apologize, but we talk to our players, we earn everything every day. And so you have to find ways for them to earn it. So we're going to show them PowerPoint about meritocracy, and they're going to see about Jim Harbaugh, and they're going to see Tony Romo and Nick Saban. So they're going to see the programs they want to play in, that you have to earn things. And then I think you must make them earn things. So like at North Forney, we pair our kids up every day, and they compete on the squat. I mean, so it's 1-on-1 every day, and there's a winner and a loser. And so we have about 12 shower heads, and we have 100 guys in off season. Well, they're all trying to get to second period class. So the guys who won, they get to go shower first. And if they tied, we make them have a tiebreaker or whatever. But so you got to, whatever you are trying to, because again, how old are your kids, Ron?
A 4 and 2.
Okay, well, when your 4-year-old is 10, you're going to hear that they're the only one in their class without an iPhone, right? So when my kids are 20 and 19, and I can remember in middle school, like, my daughter was going to have to go to therapy or something because she didn't have an iPhone, right? And so kids don't earn much anymore. So you got to talk about it, and you got to show them people that they want to be like, and then you must find ways in your program to make them earn things. And so here's another great example is I got this from Matt Rule, but only single digit guys. So we haven't done this for the fall season, but like at our spring game this year, I'll send out a Google form and I'll say, who are the 9 toughest guys? We don't do number 1 in our program. I think that's for mascots. And so whoever the 9 toughest guys are, they'll get to wear a single digit in the spring game.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, so we celebrate toughness and all that, but they get to earn that. You just don't get, and again, it's a spring game, but it's a deal. So you make them earn stuff. And I got so many things, but this spring during spring football, we're going to put on their helmets, we'll have college coaches come by, and I've already told my team this, but we're going to put their squat in big numbers on this side of their helmet. We're going to put their power clean in big numbers on this side of their helmet. So you have to find ways to make them earn things and put it out there for people to see. And so you got to be real creative, but you got to find ways to do it every day.
I like that because now they're competing against themselves.
Yeah.
With the squat and the power clean and not their buddy. Because let's say you and me, we're going at it and you're a lot stronger than I am. So you don't have to lift as much as me to beat me. But if I'm competing against myself, now I have to look inside myself and be like, I can do better than that.
Yeah.
I am better than that. Yeah. So that's brilliant, man.
Yeah, I just think, I saw this on Twitter, which is great, but like in the 70s, some coach from Minnesota would put their players bench press on the side of their helmets for games. And I thought, man, in spring, if we tell our kids their squat and power clean are going to go on the side of their helmet, and those college coaches are going to come by and see that, I think it's going to make them work harder, that their number will be, it's their personal billboard. So I just think you got to find those kind of things.
It's freaking brilliant, coaches. If the only thing you get is just that, which that would be stupid if that's the only thing you got from this interview. But that is great. I have another question, and we're still talking about culture. What role do your assistant coaches play in establishing the culture with you? So before you have, that's a great question, by the way. So before you have those meetings with your kids when you're coming into a new school, do you have a separate meeting with your assistant coaches first, so you're all on the same page, or how does that work?
Yeah, 100%. You must get those guys on board. Again, in Texas, they're all school teachers, right? So here's our system is really good in Texas as far. I'm not one of those that think that we're smarter than anybody else. Like some guys in Texas that maybe, like we didn't put the laces in the football or anything like that, but our system is good. You cannot coach in Texas if you're not a full-time employee. So they're all on campus. And
that's great.
Yeah, it really is. So like, what we've been doing since the season's been over with, we've been meeting for 45 minutes every morning before athletics starts. So they're hearing it from me also, every day. Here's what we're about. Here's what we're about. Here's what I saw yesterday. Here's what we got, So basically during our workout, I'm walking around and I'm making sure our culture is right. And if it's real bad, which it's not, but if a kid's not finishing or something, I'm going to address it then. But if there's other things like that, then we're going to talk about it tomorrow as a staff. So, but I think, the AD, his name is Smith. I'm losing his first name, but at Ohio State, when he interviews somebody, he always asks them, what are 3 personal core values you live by? Well, so I stole that. And so I'm going to talk about core values a ton when I interview people. I think you're hiring the who, not the what. If I'm looking for a linebacker coach, it's not rocket science. I need somebody who's done it before and all that, but I really want to find a guy who believes in my everything, earn everything every day, help raise them culture. So I'm looking for guys who believe in what I believe in, and then they're going to help me do it. I think it's just like anything else. If coaches don't buy into it, they really need to go find somewhere else, because the kids that's going to be that one chink in the armor. it's going to destroy all your players are going to go to that guy because they know that he ain't going to hold them accountable. So,
Exactly.
but you got to meet with them and you got to talk about it every day.
Just like you do with the kids. So it's really, it's no different. You're still saying the same message to everybody on your team.
Yeah. I mean, they probably think I'm a broken record or whatever, but we're talking about our culture every day. And I think that and I got good guys, like they want to please me. They want to go do it and they believe it and all, but we don't all think the same or whatever. And so here's what's important to me. And I got to talk to them about that. And I have to make sure it's happening.
Okay. And I'm that beautiful segue into what Coach Tony says. Have you ever pitched culture, or do you know anyone that has pitched culture, has tried it, and it hasn't worked? And if so, what was the lesson? Like, how do you pick yourself up from that? Or what's
Yeah.
like the major mistake most coaches who try to do culture, but it doesn't succeed? What can they do differently?
Tony, that's the best question ever. Okay. So
There you
I
go,
got a
Tony.
guy, I got a guy on my staff who used to be, we'll just say Smith High School. Okay. So he was at Smith High School. 2 years ago, the coach at Smith High School bought 20 of my books. And Culture Defeat Strategy, the first book, chapter 2 is about how to do core values. And it's just neat, right? I'd never done core values before. And I think chapter 2 is the greatest chapter of any book of culture, I think, is how to do core values. So they do a book study and they talk about the book. They know how to do core values. They understand it and all. And he buys a bunch of signs and he does core values. And I don't think the players are in on it. Just by the way, I venture off, but I had a coach call me one time and said, Randy, I got you on speakerphone. There's 12 coaches in here and we're going to do core values. We need, we're going to do them and we want you to help us do them. I said, okay, here's what you need to do. You need to hang up and get with your team tomorrow and let them help you do them. And I walked him through it. Right.
Yeah.
But so this guy at Smith High School bought the books. They read it. They understood it. And then they did their own core values without the players and they bought signs and this is a 6A school with plenty of money and they branded it and they put the signs up and they never talked about it again. And he got fired later that year. And so when I hired this guy, I remember asking him, hey, he goes, Coach, we didn't talk about it, and our players weren't in on it and they didn't. So,
yeah.
And I talk about this in my first book. I did core values before I started doing them the right way. And I just made them myself. And I mean, one of the best books I ever read is Win Forever by Pete Carroll. And one of his core values is be early. I was like, yeah, that's a good one. Right. And so my core values before I knew how to do them constituted of a locker tag with be early, tough. I don't even remember what they were. Right. But one of them, I tell this story all the time, but one of them was Bill Curry talks about magnanimitas, which is greatness of spirit. So not only was I doing it wrong, one of my freaking words is magnanimitas when our players could not, what the hell, right? The worst, that's the worst one. I even put a word on there and not only did I not know what it was, they couldn't even pronounce it, right? So Tony and everybody else out there, if you're going to do it, you have to have a system and you got to do it every day and you got to follow through with it. It's not science. Disney and Chick-fil-A, there aren't just signs on the wall and then those people are reading it and they're brainwashed. So I know I probably got to find a better term, but you got to brainwash them. And that brainwashing is with coaches and players is pretty much daily,
Yeah.
Like just the song Tough Enough being played every Wednesday, right? So you got to find ways to hammer that message home every day, not just use signs. If you're just going to put signs on the wall, then you're wasting money.
I agree. I like that. You have to keep repeating it over and over and over again. It's not just a one-time thing and then, all right, wash my hands of it, I'm done.
Yeah, well, you kind of just said it then, but if you think a bath is really good, you can't do it one time, right? You got to kind of take a bath every day. I think that's how culture is. You got to bathe every day.
I love that analogy, man. That is beautiful. All right, Coach, we got a couple more because I know you're a busy man and everything like that. Um, what was it? I saw a good one. It's talking about aggression. Like, let's say, because you said you came in, was it Grapevine? They weren't that tough.
Yes.
So let's say I come into a new school and I'm in the same situation as you. They're not that aggressive or tough. Like, what's one key thing I can do that can increase that?
Well, we're going to wrestle.
Okay.
Now we haven't, we're going to, so at Grapevine, we had a wrestling team. So I made every kid learn the basics of wrestling. We don't have a wrestling team at North Forney, but I got a coach who used to be a wrestling coach. So here's how we do it at North Forney. We're going to put our kids in 2 groups. And on Monday and Wednesday, group A is going to squat for 10 minutes. And they're going to get as many sets and reps in as they can for 10 minutes. And group B is going to wrestle for 10 minutes. And then we're going to switch. And
Okay.
10 minutes of wrestling isn't a lot or whatever, but it's 10 minutes more than most people are getting.
Yeah.
So if you have the, I may have just had college coaches come by and go, we just don't ever touch each other in anger. You're just not going to get tough bench pressing. And I do agree, like running a 400 is great and all that, but it's still not like, wrestling,
Yeah.
So I believe in that. And then I think we practice a little different than everybody else. Everybody's so worried about concussions and all that. Now we're rugby tackling. We take our head out of it. But so here's how we practice. And this is a video I'm going to make, but Monday and Tuesday, we're going to practice full pads and we're going to tackle to the ground. And we do some 11 on 11. I call it ball down. And it's like game speed. Now, if somebody's in a bad situation, I'm gonna blow the whistle. But
Yeah.
so we're gonna tackle Monday and Tuesday, and people in Texas don't go full pads anymore. So I think what people have done to football is they've taken the toughness out of the game and the aggression. And so when I was at Poteet, which is the place that had the big turnaround, I had athletes where we didn't have to go, and then I get to Grapevine, we're not all that athletic and we're not very good tacklers. So after that first year, we started going full pads. I'd love to. I need to figure out if people are doing this or not. But on Wednesday, we're doing no sweat Wednesdays. Love it. It's helmets only.
I've heard about it.
If you ever go to it, you will love. Our players love it. On Thursday, we put shoulder pads on and we ramp it up again. So we're going about 2 hours Monday and Tuesday, 75 minutes on Wednesday, and 75 minutes, maybe 70 on Thursday. And on Thursday, we're thudding up again. But just real quick, like I know I'm talking fast and going over a lot of things, but an Olympic track coach told Chip Kelly years ago that if they had a track meet on Friday, there was no way in the world would they take Thursday off and do a walkthrough. And so I kind of bought into that. So Wednesday and then we're ramping up on Thursday. But so bottom line is we're hitting even the day before the game. So I think as long as you're tackling correctly and you're taking the head out of it and all, I still think you can go full pads on Monday and Tuesday. But and I think you have to go good on good if you're going to be tough. And again, we're going to talk about it. We're going to do leadership lessons. I'm going to show them video of people who are tough, and then we're going to go do it. And so you got to find ways and year round where you're making them be tough. And I think that is. For me, track is some of it. We're going to kind of make all our kids go through track practice, but it's physical touch through wrestling and full pad and tackle as much as you can.
I like that. And also that Wednesday, I have heard of no sweat Wednesdays. You're giving them a break after going hard Monday and Tuesday.
Yes. And I think and somebody I think it's hard to get injured when you don't hit 3 days in a row, right? So you're taking off so our kids just they don't have contact that third day in a row. And I think that's big too. So we really have very few injuries and we still tackle to the ground 2 days a week.
And I can I'm just looking at it from a player's perspective. When I don't do anything on Thursday, usually Thursdays are walkthroughs.
Yep.
When it comes game time on Friday, you're like, God, I don't feel like doing this. And have you seen, okay, let me ask you this. Since you've gone to that, have you seen less of a sluggish start during the games than you did when you the old school way?
I'm not sure if I have or not, but I do know that we execute like when you can just take Wednesday and you don't go good on good, and you're just, I mean, we do more kicking game and all that, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of play polish in there too. And so here's the best part for me. I'm pretty intense.
Mhm.
And so, like I've always said, I should just wear a smiley face on Thursday because I don't need to be ripping kids, you know. But on Thursday, I've been less aggravated because on Wednesday we've play polished and we've corrected things. And so on Thursday, now we're ramping back up against the day before the game, and there's very few
That's smart.
mistakes.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're walking off the field on Thursday and we feel better about ourselves.
Because
It's
that
pretty
that
neat. I'm telling you, I think I've been doing it probably 5 years now. And between that and film and practice with a drone, I think those are two of the biggest things I've done in the last 5 years.
I have seen, we had a drone last spring game. It was just the ROCT. They got some kind of
Uh-huh.
grant, could get the drone. And oh my goodness, the difference
Oh,
of film that you get from a drone, it is unfreaking believable. And I am jealous you use drone
and they're
film.
cheap and kids will do it. I
Yeah.
mean, you can be all in with extra batteries and all for $1,000 now. I mean, and kids don't mind. If you ask a kid to stand up in the bleachers or whatever and film, but if you want them to fly a drone, then you can get that done. They like that.
All right, coach. One more question, and then I know you're a busy guy. Okay, so this ties in. I get hired at a new school. I want to install culture. What's the first thing? Just give me something small that I can do that'll get that ball rolling toward a successful culture.
I so my well, here's what I did at North Forney. I asked the principal if I could meet with everybody on the football team in the auditorium the day, like maybe 2 days before I really started. So let's
Mhm.
say I started on March 1st. On February 26th or whatever day it was, we had a team meeting in the auditorium, and I had a PowerPoint, and I mean, I want them. My whole job, I thought, was I wanted them to leave that auditorium fired up. I was their head coach. I wanted them to go home and tell their parents, "Hey, the guy that we needed to fix this is here." And so I think that is a great thing if you can, I know everybody won't do it, but my principal said, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to get them." And I said, "Well, how long do I have?" She said, "As long as you want." So I probably went about an hour. I mean, they were late for their next class, but I think you got to find a way to sell them the vision, and the earlier the better. Now, and I tell you what else too, kids love language, or shirts and things like that. So if you get a job and you have a couple of weeks before you start, if you have the budget or whatever, if you can get some kind of new T-shirt with a new logo, yeah, not core values or whatever, because they need to come in on that, but maybe a slogan or something that's important to you. And like when I got the job at Poteet, the first thing I did was when I stood in front of the team, I didn't think about doing the meeting in the auditorium, but I stood in front of them in the locker room and I gave them all a new shirt. They were fired up.
That's nice.
So yeah, team meeting with a PowerPoint, some kind of new shirt or whatever, some kind of gear.
Okay.
Uh, but the bottom line is, like, my first day at North Forney, this is in the book, but our kids were so undisciplined. I had to stop twice. I had the assistant superintendent, the AD in there. I had to stop twice and tell them to be quiet. I mean, Lord have mercy, right? I mean, who can't be quiet when the new head coach is talking?
Yeah.
And so, and I didn't want that. I didn't want there to be anything negative, but I knew I had to be in control of the situation. So, but yeah, if I'm taking a new job, they got to go home that day going, "Man, that's the guy."
Okay. There you go. Well, coach, for coaches that are watching, and later on it'll be in the show description, but here is all of his stuff, his Twitter, his 2 books, his website. Reach out to him. Is there a best way to get in touch with you if they do? Is it Twitter, or is that the
Yeah, I
best way?
mean, my email is culture@coachrandyjackson.com. I'm on my email a lot because of my store, so I'll get emails. So no big deal. But Twitter, I'm a Twitter guy too, and I just like coaches. I like fellowshipping with coaches, and so yeah, feel free. Anybody wants to ask me anything, I'm honored if you want to know my opinion.
All right. And coach, thank you so much for joining us, man. This has been
Yeah.
an honor.
Oh, Ron, my honor's been all mine, and my first live YouTube event, and I'm proud it was with you. You do a
Yeah.
great
Thank you.
job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, you do a
Uh,
great job, man. It was fun.
thank you. All right, coaches. Until next time, go ahead.